I might have a toast with you. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great, I'm terrific. We ain't taking no losses, we winning. Undefeated, check the percentage.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, man. Let's go. We got R.A. Peasy and Coach in the building, man. Let's go, Coach. How you feeling, Coach?
Hey, man, I'm feeling good. I got my coffee. You know, this is an early rise type thing for me, man, but I'm ready to go, man. I got all the energy now that I would have at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's do it.
I'm telling you, hey, I'm the same way. I'll say this. Like, first of all, doing a show early in the morning for me is cake work. Only because, like, I'm up at 5 o'clock anyways every morning. You know, I'm just wired like that. Man, I already been up 4 hours. You feel me? Like, I've already been up 4 hours. So, like, to me, man, this is just like midday where I'm trying to figure out, 4 hours, did what I had to do early in the morning. Now, I'm trying to figure out the rest of my day. And that's probably why I like go to bed early a lot too, though. Like, people call me an old soul because by 8:30, usually, if I don't have shows and stuff planned, I'm ready to like lay it down and call it a day. So shout out everybody in the building. We don't know if the chat's gonna be, as popping as it usually is. There's something I was telling Coach backstage is something new. I think the only time I've done a show this early was probably a pep rally before a London game or something. So, hey, at the end of the day, shout out to the ones that's up early. Birds chirping. Hey, my boy Delt, let's go. He says, sun is shining somewhere. Birds are chirping. PG4L, man. Shout out Del, man. That's a fact. You hear me, man? Hey, shout out my boy Del, though, man, for sure, man. Like, not only from just the Vikings community, but just a real dude in general. You know what I'm saying? Like in life, man, always checking up on your boy and stuff like that, man. So shout out to him, man. That's a fact. Skull for Life, Barber, fade you up, man. Let's go. Hey, shout out this brother right here. Hey. He said, man, good morning, rap. I got you on at the shop. All my clients get to hear some knowledge. Skull PG4L, man. Let's go, man. Hey, we got to get them to be them Vikings fans. I mean, they got to be Vikings fans. If you want to come to the shop, you gotta bleed purple and gold, man. That's a new rule, man. We incorporating. Shout out my Skull bro, man. I see you in the building, man. My Skull bro up early. I know he used to being up early. He be hunting. Ass crack of dawn, all type of stuff. So shout out to him. We got Sodak, man. Shout out my boy Sodak, man. I see my boy Sodak in a minute. So I know we doing something right, man. Sodak in the building early. He like, shit, it's the morning. This my type of time, rap. We do a morning show. I'm in the building. Like, for real, man. Shout out my boy Sodak. Queen Mary's in the building. I see you, Queen Mary. Bite Size, what's good? Hey, Bite Size, man. Hey, Johnny, you got to hit me up, bro. Like, I've been trying to, you need to holler at me though, man. We need to lock something in for sure, man. Definitely got to lock something in. Skull Mafia, my Skull bro with the 1999. Let's go, man. Shout out Charles in the building, man, for sure. I see you. Yeah, man. We in the morning, man. Hold on. What did he say? Alaska? Bro, did you move to Alaska? Oh, I thought you said you was in Alaska. I'm about to say, hey, let's go. Shout out Norris. Norris said next time make it 9. Well, technically it's 9 o'clock my time. I mean, it's 9 o'clock my time. The coach over there is 8 o'clock over there with you.
Yeah, man.
But he up, man. He up and at him, man. Let's go. All right, so we got everybody, man. Hey, make sure y'all hit the like button. Hit the like button on the way in, for sure, man, to push the content. Maybe we'll wake some people up. Coach, we haven't talked we've talked, but as far as talking Vikings football on air, we haven't talked since the last show. And
yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
And there's been some things that happen, right? There's been some things, nothing crazy, but some things, right? Yeah. And that's kind of what we want to touch on. And, I kind of want to just get your feel real quick on what you saw, like what you've been seeing at OTA, the little clips where they get us excited. You know what I mean? They get us excited, get tingling a little bit, man, because we're seeing some good things out there. What you got going on?
Man, well, I know we're going to get into the whole JJ McCarthy thing, the hate of JJ McCarthy, man. But the one thing, my eyes have been on JJ. We really got a small sample size of what he could do last year, just that one preseason game. So any highlight that I see of JJ McCarthy, that's what I want to view. And I think the one misrepresentation of my guy, JJ, is that his arm is weak. I mean, when you look at what you are going to see from the Minnesota Vikings this year, man, I'm telling you right now, it's going to jump off the page at you, is the short passing game with the Minnesota Vikings and an intermediate passing game with the Minnesota Vikings. Throws that Sam Darnold could not make, throws that Kirk Cousins was afraid to make. Because I always say Kirk Cousins was a very conservative quarterback. He didn't want to take any chances. So I think this is going to be one of the best offenses that the Minnesota Vikings have had in a few years in terms of those two things, that short passing game, that intermediate game. You can just see the ball, man, just flow off of J.J. McCarthy's hands. And for those people that are analyzing him as having a weak arm, man, that boy's got a rope. You know, he probably doesn't have that straight long ball throw like Sam Darnold had last year. Sam Darnold's bigger, stronger quarterback. But in terms of that intermediate game wrap, that short game, man, J.J. McCarthy is really going to enhance this offense, man. That's what really jumped off the screen at me at OTA since J.J. McCarthy's taken over QB1.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, technically, when you think about these past couple weeks of OTAs, that's really all you can evaluate, because obviously the linemen, you can't evaluate them. I guess you could evaluate the DBs because they are doing 7-on-7s and, you know, they're out there playing coverage and stuff like that. But it's just not the same as live games. So, but you do, like you said, you get to see how the ball comes out of J.J. McCarthy's hands. This is the main thing. And that's why it may sound like, oh, all we talk about is J.J. But bro, that's all we can really talk. Like, that's why all the reporters, the beat writers that are actually at OTAs, when they come back to talk about it, J.J. McCarthy is the topic of discussion. It just is what it is, man, because first of all, everybody's curious. The anticipation's there. We're wondering what's going on. Is he back healthy 100%? What's the knee look like? What's the arm look like? And like you said, it looks good. You know what I mean? Like, according to everybody who's there, it looks good. And now there's been reports coming out he threw a couple interceptions. So what? All right. So what? How you feel about that, Coach, when you see reports talking about, oh, because the same guy you're talking about that we know said he has a weak arm and all this good stuff, all this negative stuff he's been talking, is the same guy who started out his segment with J.J. McCarthy threw 3 interceptions in a row. Yeah. In 3 different days, not 3 in a row, like in the same day, but just a 1 interception per practice. How you feel about that?
When you think about the coverage of J.J. McCarthy, man, I think there should be a lot of coverage in terms of him almost over coverage. I mean, think about this. He's the highest drafted quarterback in Minnesota Vikings franchise history. We obviously jettisoned a quarterback to Seattle in Sam Darnold, who led us to a 14-4 season. So all eyes should be on J.J. McCarthy, man. And in terms of his mistakes rap, I like mistakes. As a coach, I don't like mistakes when it's prime time and during the games. But in terms of these mini camps, OTAs, and even going into training camp, I love the mistakes, because J.J. seems to be the type of individual, man, that seems to learn from those mistakes. And I figure the more mistakes that he can go through now and then iron out those wrinkles in his game, the better he's going to be during the season. I think a lot of people get overly concerned about that kind of stuff. I don't. I like to see him out there making those mistakes, because, you know, as soon as he makes some of those mistakes, you know, the coaching staff is going to come in, quarterback's coach is going to come in and say, hey, this is what you need to read on this play. And it's just going to make him a better quarterback. I think there's a difference between making mistakes and just being awful. And from all the reports coming out of training camp, J.J. McCarthy is nowhere near awful. Has he made a couple of mistakes? Has he gotten dinged a couple times? Absolutely, man. But I think that's going to make him a better quarterback going forward.
And this is the thing. We've seen him make a mistake in live action, too, with the first preseason game. And we saw how he reacted to that mistake. We saw how he came back from that mistake. So me hearing J.J. McCarthy made a mistake at practice, it worries me not one bit. Not one bit, because I'm sure right after that, he bounced back and probably was slinging the ball around the field for the next hour of practice, if we're going to be honest, right? So, and this is the thing. Last year, if for the ones who don't remember, I mean, we were hearing Sam Darnold was just looking horrible in OTAs and going interception after interception. You know, it happens, man. I feel like a lot of times we discredit Brian Flores when we talk about our quarterbacks making, you know, interception here and there, because we see it all the time about how the offensive players are talking about, yo, what is this we're running? Like, what's this defense? You know, Brian Flores is out there, even in OTAs, trying to trick, you know what I'm saying, the offense. Like, he takes it serious. I'll tell you that. He takes it serious, real serious. You know, he's trying to cause turnovers at practice. He ain't playing around. So I think a lot of that's going to it's going to pay dividends to JJ McCarthy when the season starts going against a defense like Brian Flores. And I expect to hear that there's an interception here and there because it's the Vikings defense, bro. We got to start giving our defense some more credit, man. You know what I mean? Honestly, I think so. I think we got to start giving our defense some more credit.
Yeah, Brian Flores is all about disguise and making you think something's going to happen a certain way and pulling out another way. If you remember what JJ McCarthy said before his first preseason game last year, he was like, man, it's just going to feel good to go up against something vanilla. I've been going up against B-Flow's defense all training camp, man. And I think that's another aspect, man. You hit it dead on the head. I think it's going to make JJ McCarthy better. I mean, to use a math term, I mean, that's like taking calculus or trigonometry every day you go to work.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to benefit our offense, and it's definitely going to benefit JJ McCarthy down the stretch, man. So you are absolutely right about that. I expect to hear a lot more mistakes coming from JJ McCarthy's way just because of what he's going up against in practice every day.
No, that's a fact. And I think as a Vikings community, we shouldn't be concerned when we do hear, mistakes come out because they are going to come out, right? Especially when it's time to put the pads on and they go live, and there's going to be things, but there's also going to be a lot of good things that we're going to see on video clips and stuff like that. Speaking of video clips, Delton wanted me to ask you, man, were you planning on going to training camp any days? Because he's interested in meeting you out there. If so, like, I don't know how far you live away from there, but I know there's days where they do let the fans in, and man, we get some good videos, man, especially from our boy Dustin Viking, man. I'm a guy, I'll tell you that. If you ain't following him on X, follow him because he's front row every year since I've been doing content when it comes to training camp, and man, he gets the exclusive video footage, man. But do you plan on going out there?
Yeah, I plan on going out there a lot. I will keep everybody updated because I would like to meet everybody as well. My partner that I used to do my show with, Unconventional Playbook, he is the athletic director of the high school right next to the Minnesota Vikings complex. So there are times where the Vikings will use some of their facilities as well. So I'll have access to be there a lot, man. So I'm willing to come out and meet everybody and take advantage of that. But I'll keep you updated. I'll let you know.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I look forward to seeing some of the video. Man, that's one thing. I'm like, yo, if I lived up there, man, I would be at every single opportunity I get, man. I'm there. You hear me? Like, man, the video content would be crazy. But, hey, I thank the community of us having a great community and the ones that do go out there and put in that work and get us the information we need for the guys like me that are all the way across the country, man, and gotta report on stuff, man. So shout out to y'all. Adele said, yeah, yo, back in the day, old school coaches would be like, if you're not throwing picks, you're not being aggressive enough. And that's a good take because, again, he said he wants to make mistakes. Even JJ said it, man. I'm okay with making mistakes out here at practice because you got to risk it, man. He said specifically, this is the time to risk it. And because it lets you know kind of how much you can push it, how much you can't push it. You got to find that balance. I want to touch on something that I heard Judd say on Purple Daily. He was talking about JJ McCarthy, his arm, what he's been seeing out there, and they were touching on it's not the zip, it's not the power, the all of that. That's one thing he said. He doesn't know what Colin Cowherd was talking about because that's not the issue. He said, but the one thing is that he did notice is maybe touch on the football, meaning throwing it. Sometimes you got to put it over a linebacker's head and have it drop into the bucket and stuff like that. He said those are things that he can see maybe need to be worked on. But that as a coach, I mean, that's something that can be coached though, right? That's one of those tendencies that I feel like can be coached, the putting the touch on the football.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of that is getting acclimated to his wide receivers. I mean, he didn't get a lot of reps last year, so he hadn't had an opportunity to build that chemistry with like Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, Naylor and the fellas. So that's going to come with chemistry and learning how they break off their routes and stuff like that. And then also what he's dealing with is speedier defensive players, man. I tell people this was a big deal last year that JJ didn't get an opportunity to practice, man. So now he's hitting the ground running this year in terms of just being able to fit things in windows, throwing those layer type passes that you were talking about over the linebackers, in between the safeties, stuff like that. That's going to take time. And the one thing you have to realize, and the question you may have to ask is, does our quarterback have the football acumen to be able to adjust and improve in some of those areas? No problem with JJ McCarthy. I think in that area, you're just going to see him get better and better and better with the Minnesota Vikings. And, I'm not surprised that this is something that he has to work on just because of the time missed, but I'm not worried about it. I think it's something that he's going to get better with. I heard a report about JJ McCarthy that they're trying to get him to be a little bit more aggressive downfield.
Okay.
And I think that's to be expected as well. Like, he goes after it, as I mentioned before, in the short game and the intermediate game. But I think he's at this time right now in his game where he's a little bit afraid to take some chances because he wants to please his coaches. He wants to please the reporters out there. So you can tell that type of stuff is in his mind a little bit. So I've heard that everybody's been trying to promote to him, hey, don't be afraid to take this look. Don't be afraid to look downfield. And I think that's an area of growth that JJ McCarthy is going to have to do as well.
And I can see that. I could see that being a thing too. Even though looking at the preseason game where, I mean, he threw a couple bombs in that game. I think both touchdowns were pretty much like bombs, especially that first one, the Tristan Jackson. Shout out Joker, shout out Bandito, shout out Salif. We appreciate y'all, man. We got a little crowd in here early morning. Y'all liking the early morning vibes, huh? Okay. This is a test run. You know what I mean? It's a test run. We might got something for you. But it's funny to think that you heard that report only because seeing the preseason game, I mean, it seemed like he was letting it go, but I can understand, like, if I tried to put myself in his shoes and look at it like, dang, you're coming back throughout the whole process of you being injured and, most people knowing this was going to be your year. This is your team now. You're kind of walking on eggshells because you don't want to go out there and look horrible, and a lot of quarterbacks, I feel like, suffer from, hey, if I start letting this ball go deep, man, is there going to be more mistakes than there is success? Right. And then I'm going to start getting crucified. You know what I mean? Fans are I told you he's trash and this, that, and the third. But I think, I have so much faith in him that I believe that it's not going to hold him back too much longer. I think when the pads come on, because we saw, I mean, even last year with some of the training camp clips, I mean, he was letting it go. There's probably a case where he needs to let it go more. And, Justin Jefferson has touched on this, saying, hey, we know I think even Justin Jefferson recently, a couple of days ago, was saying, there's just certain things we're going to work on together, like being able to zip it through, put it in those holes, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be wide open every time.
Right.
You're not going to be wide open. You're going to have to trust me to make a play. As long as he can do that, right? Trust your wide receivers, man. Trust your wide receivers. Me and Really Flawed were talking last night about something about, we call it the effed balls, right? And it was, Case Keenum. And I said, sometimes like it works.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you have the right receivers, it works. I think Case Keenum was great at it. Just throwing, how many times in 2017 I'm watching the Vikings and Case Keenum just slings one up and I'm like, no, yes. You know what I mean? Like, it was happening a lot. You know what I mean? It was happening all the way down to the Minneapolis Miracle, to the last game. So, I mean, it was just, look, man, I really do trust the process. I trust our quarterback. I think he's going to be all right, but that's a good report that you heard, man. That's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, and Rap, here's the thing that's going to make JJ McCarthy that much more effective. I think as Viking fans, we look at the last few years with KOC and how pass happy they were, at least splitting that thing 60-40. Man, I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be determined to run the ball this year. Mm-hmm. And the one thing you can't say about JJ McCarthy is that he's not an efficient quarterback. He's a very efficient quarterback. And you start to add a really stout running game along with all the attributes that he exhibits when he's out there playing quarterback. I mean, you talk about the play action pass incorporated in there, man, that's going to make JJ McCarthy even that much more effective because of the running game. Everything is set up for it. You got Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, and then that offensive line as well. I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a stout running team, and that's just going to help our guy, JJ.
No, that's a fact. Shout out Two-Tone in the building. Shout out Joker, man. Yeah, we got to add another Vikings content creator. That's a fact, Coach, man. Y'all got to go tap in, man. The channel is in the title. So just click the blue name in the title. You know what I'm saying? I do that on purpose. He said I just subbed. There you go. Appreciate it. Yeah, and we got
Awesome. Appreciate you, man.
we got some stuff coming too. So make sure y'all stay tuned, man. You know, hey, this was one of them classic link ups, man, for sure. From the first time we did our show like a couple weeks ago or a month ago, whatever the case was. But it was a good one, and we plan on continuing to bring this type of content, man. I just think we have great conversations, and it's gonna even get better when we actually have, you know, the evidence too to be able to really touch on, man. It's gonna be it's gonna be nice. So I can't wait.
Sir.
Let's talk about like the defense. So I got Van Ginkel on the thumbnail, man. He was the cover art, man. I'm like, you know what? I just feel like Van Ginkel got to be the cover art for this early morning coffee sipping Vikings talking show. Because expectations, and the reason why I picked Van Ginkel, because I'm looking at a situation where I've, you know, recently, and I've seen even other people in the Vikings community talking about Dallas Turner, the expectations. It's hard to think. It's hard to envision, shall I say, because they extended Van Ginkel, and I'm looking at Dallas Turner. I'm trying to figure out, where is he really gonna fit, right? Like, where is he really gonna be inserted into this defense to be effective and get enough snaps? Because I just don't think what we saw last year is enough for him to be considered a successful player. Like, you can't. He has to play more. So my question is, like, how do you see that really coming to fruition with Dallas Turner really getting his opportunity, even though he has some really good players in front of him that we're extending and investing in?
Yeah, that's a good question. And Rap, I give you a lot of credit, because last time we had a conversation on your show, you mentioned that, you know, the same thing. You were like, I wonder where they're going to, you know, play Dallas Turner. Is he going to play a little bit of linebacker? So I give you a lot of credit. People that I know that have put eyes on the Minnesota Vikings right now are really supporting what your thoughts were during that broadcast. Right now, he doesn't have a position. Like, he is positionless right now. And I think if you make him strictly an edge rusher, he's going to have the same role that he had last year, because he's not going to get a whole lot of time over Van Ginkel and Grenard. I think they're going to put him in a lot of different places. I think they have that NASCAR formation, as what B-Flow calls it, where he's going to get all three of those guys on the field at the same time, especially in passing situations. You may see Dallas Turner line up in the D-tack spot. Now, he may not have his hand in the ground, you know, all the time, but I think they're going to put him there at times. Obviously, in B-Flow's defense, he's going to drop back in coverage in times, but I think they want to utilize what he does well. You know, he's got that deep shoulder bend where he can get around those offensive tackles. So you're going to see a combination of him playing edge rusher. You're going to see a lot of combinations of him playing D-tack. And I think you're also going to see him playing a little bit of middle linebacker at times as well, depending on the formation and what they're trying to do. So I made a video on my podcast, you know, a couple of weeks ago just about that. I think Dallas Turner is going to be used, you know, similar to Josh Metellus. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be in the secondary. That's not what I'm saying. But he's going to play multiple spots, you know, in that front seven. So it's going to be, where is Dallas Turner if I'm a quarterback and an offensive lineman trying to read what the Minnesota Vikings are going to do on defense?
No, I was going to say that, you know, if you didn't mention it throughout your take there about, you know, Dallas Turner kind of being the Josh Metellus of the front of the defense. You know what I mean? Like, whether that's, like you said, moving him linebacker, DT, edge, like just that guy, because I feel like if you put him, you know, I like the DT kind of thing for certain packages, only because speed, and I still believe speed kills in the middle if you know how to utilize it the right way. And I think he would be one of those guys who would know how to, where he can get right to the quarterback quickly, you know, off that snap. It could be very, very interesting to see what would happen there. I went into the linebacker role because there was a lot of indications last year that he can drop back in coverage and isn't half bad at it. Right? Isn't half bad at it. He's fast for his size. He moves around really well. I mean, this is somebody who could be a linebacker, in my opinion, especially in today's NFL, because we see all these hybrid type players. I mean, we're not the only team doing it. There's a lot of teams that use guys, you know, all around the way, but we do it a certain way to where a guy like Dallas Turner and Brian Flores are going to be that's a good marriage from what I vision the type of player Dallas Turner is. And this year, correct me if I'm wrong, coach, but I've been standing on this and I'm saying I feel like we have no choice. Dallas Turner, like for what you gave up to move up and get a Dallas Turner, I mean, the 2025 has to be a year where it has to be seen, right?
Yeah.
There is no, we can't go into next off season talking about, well, Dallas Turner this year is going to be, hey, it's going to be good. We're going to utilize him. No, it needs to happen now. You know what I mean? Like we need to see that return on investment this year right here. I think this is the year.
Well, this is why we got a guy like Brian Flores, man, and this is his value. He's a great adapter. I mean, he's like a chameleon.
Yeah.
He does a great job at using his personnel and adapting to his personnel. I think the big misconception about B-Flow is that he's this blitz happy guy. I think you're going to see the best of B-Flow this year because
speak on that because you talked about that and I'm interested. Yeah, I want you to tell the people what you really said about that. Yeah,
man. B-Flow is one of these guys where he's very adaptable, but he's really smart. And he understood maybe for the past couple of years, he's been the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator, that he really didn't have the secondary that he wanted to have, and he really didn't have the pass rush up front. So with smoke and mirrors, he had to blitz a lot. I mean, I think his blitz rate over the last 2 years has been at least about 46 to 50% of the defensive plays, man. That's just way too much. I think you're going to see that thing drop off significantly down in like maybe 38% blitz rate, because now he's got the guys up front that can manufacture their own blitz rate. So now you're just going to see him being able to play with quarterbacks' minds even more. Are they coming? Are they dropping back in coverage? Are they playing zone schemes? Are they playing man-to-man schemes? And then you start moving around guys like Josh Metellus and Dallas Turner. Man, that makes that defense even more crazy. So I think this year you are going to see the best of Brian Flores. I think the Minnesota Vikings defense is going to be at least top 5. My prediction is that they're going to be in the top 3 defensively. That's going to be the strength of our defense. And when you have a team that can keep you in ball games and not let that thing get expanded out there by like 17 to 20 points, that's going to help your running game. You're still going to be able to run the ball. That's going to help JJ McCarthy. So it's like this domino effect, right? And that's why I'm so excited about the Minnesota Vikings. And I just don't understand these takes about how bad they're going to be. I just don't see that coming anyway.
Yeah, I think, I touched on great take too. I remember touching on that with you, and that's, that made so much sense about, and I think Delton, man, I want to give Delton some props too. We were talking and he said the same thing. I mean, like he was talking about how, listen, Brian Flores almost had no choice but to blitz as much as he did because, again, we just didn't have the depth at cornerback to really trust. We couldn't really trust that. So it was either get to the quarterback or pay the ultimate price for a lot of times, right? And this year, like you said, bringing in who we have now we have people who can really apply pressure. And I think as a Vikings community, man, we've been asking for this for a long time. I know I have. Ever since I hit record on YouTube a couple of years ago, I've been screaming, man, we need a guy in the middle of the defensive line that can, get some pressure, man. Like for real, something consistently, not one or two, every other game. I'm talking about like at week in and week out, that guy that's in the middle, that nose tackle, he's going to at least be able to get some push back there and get up in the quarterback's face, a lot throughout the game and really make it hard, while now your cornerbacks can really be a little more relaxed and have opportunities to get take the ball away. And this year, like you said, this is Brian Flores, this is his third year. This is going to be his third season.
Third season, yep.
Now, I'm a big believer and this is why I vouch for Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell when people were trying to crucify them the second year in. And I had to tell people, listen, you got to relax, okay? You can't, these guys are coming in. It's going to take 4 years for them to really get who they want and actually have the team set up to how they envisioned. You can't just come in one day. You can't just come in, 1 year later and think that the whole culture is going to change. And because they have to move a lot of pieces, and there's a lot of financial conflict in between too that they got to clear up and figure out how they're going to move this here and move that there to get this player and that player. And so the vision is big. You know what I mean? But I think 4 years is really good. This year right here is super important. I mean, everything's lining up. Brian Flores, I think now we're starting to see the type. You can actually see his tendencies. You can actually see the type of players he likes. Yep. So now you're starting to see these faces coming. You're like, okay, this is Brian Flores' defense for real. He's getting it to where he wants it. And the same thing goes for the offense with Kevin O'Connell. We're starting to see now what he really wants this team to look like. And if you ask me, with those two together, it's looking like a good football team. I'm gonna tell you that. I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited, man.
It's a great three-headed monster rap. B-Flow and what he does with the defense, and KOC lets B-Flow have that. He really doesn't put it. I mean, obviously he's the head coach, but he really doesn't mess with that. He trusts B-Flow. Kevin O'Connell obviously does the offensive things. And man, I give a lot of credit to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, man. The off the field stuff and the position that he has put the Minnesota Vikings franchise in. I mean, man, think about this. When he came in, the Minnesota Vikings franchise, I wouldn't call it a mess, but they had to have a complete facelift from what Zimmer's guys did and kind of what his philosophy were. We were old, we were slow, we were non-athletic. We had these big contracts. We had our quarterback who, in my opinion, was a little bit above mediocrity in terms of Kirk Cousins on this big contract. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah came in, man, and cleaned all that up. Now we have a quarterback on his rookie contract that we can essentially build this team and fill this team out for the next 3 to 4 years, man. And I think a lot of people really underestimate that when it comes to where the Minnesota Vikings is and the job that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah did. People bring up his draft picks and stuff like that. Well, him and his free agency and being able to clean up the books for the Minnesota Vikings, I believe if there's any one thing that could lead us to a Super Bowl is some of the decisions that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has made in his tenure with the Minnesota Vikings.
No, I agree 100%. 100%. I'm a Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah supporter 1,000% actually, man. I think he gets criticized, from certain people, which is fine. I mean, as a fan, you're not gonna like everything. There's going to be things you're not going to like. That's cool. I think the bigger picture, though, if you look at how he operates, man, I think he's deserving of the job. And I want to keep him around as long as we can because I want to see this thing come to fruition. I can see it. I can feel it. It's one of those things where, like you said, that three-headed monster, it feels right. It just feels right, man. Like, I feel like we're in a good situation. I feel like we're in good hands, like Allstate, man. I really do. You know what I mean? I just really do. I think those guys are going to figure it out and figure out a way to put our team in a position to get that Lombardi. And I'm not just saying that because I am a Vikings fan. I'm saying, well, maybe I am, but there is reason. There's a legitimate reason behind it too, though. And I think even other fan bases and other people talk about it too. It's not like just Vikings fans talk about this. That's one thing I will give the main media credit for is when they talk about our coaching staff, man, they put it up on a pedestal because they realize that we have the right leaders to lead the team. It's about the personnel as far as on the field and getting those pieces to all fit together. And I feel like every year we're getting closer and closer, man. Speaking of Joker said, sign B-Flow for life. And,
that's right.
And I'm with you. Man. I have no issues with having Brian Flores as our defensive coordinator for life. You feel me? For sure, because I think he's just going to get better. I like how he's an innovator because the one thing's for sure, even bringing in Kevin O'Connell, coach, when we brought in Kevin O'Connell, and it was between Jim Harbaugh and Kevin O'Connell, the main reason why I wanted Kevin O'Connell is because I felt like he wouldn't be scared to be innovative and to, try new things and try to change the game to where I felt like Harbaugh's, he's an old school coach, great at what he does, but he's probably not going to be willing to change it up too much only because he's done what he's done and it's been successful for him. So he's going to do it his way. That's just what it is. To where Kevin O'Connell, I feel like, is a guy that always is willing to go to the drawing board if things aren't working and try new things and say, you know what I do, it's not good for the team. Let's go back to the drawing board. I love a coach that's willing to do that. And what I like about B-Flow is, hey, same thing. Let's try something new. I mean, nobody across the league, I feel like, has been talking about a defensive coordinator like B-Flow has been talked about. I mean, from players to other coaches. I mean, you look at certain player interviews, like I'll throw out one, Sauce Gardner, for example, and Sauce Gardner came out and said something about B-Flows and was like, yo, bro, I don't know what they be running, but man, I just seen something recently. I forget. I was watching something recently, man. Dang it, but they were talking about it too. They're like, yo, how does you know what it was? It was the St. Brown podcast when they had Ty Felton, and they were talking about B-Flow, and Amon-Ra was like, yeah, man, B-Flow's defenses be crazy though. He's like, yo, he'll have like Harrison Smith playing at the line, and then the ball's hiked, and he's deep safeties. Like, man, it's crazy. So, you could tell we got a good one on our hands. And as long as it can come together, man, we can start knocking these dubs down, man. For sure.
B-Flow for life, man. I don't know the specifics of the lawsuit that he has with the NFL in terms of when that's going to wrap up. But I'm not mad that it's still going, because I think as long as that lawsuit is in place, I think people are going to take a look at a guy like B-Flow, but I don't see him going anywhere as long as that thing is in place. So keep that thing out there, B-Flow. Let that thing just fester out there so we can keep you on the Minnesota Vikings coaching staff.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I want to, real quick, Coach, man, I want to do a pause and talk about these, and let me post the link here, because I'm gonna put a community post up after our show, for this as well. Give me 1 second, Coach, man. Let me put this up here. So this is the GoFundMe for my father, and we on the final stretch, man. I'll say that, man. It's something to be excited about for my family, because we got an opportunity to ring that bell, and I can't wait to ring that bell, man. You know what I mean? He's been fighting this cancer. If you don't know Todd, man, he's been fighting it. Shout out Norse for everything he's done. And, we got these here that we made, man. Let me highlight myself real quick while I post this. These plaques here, we're giving away 4. It's $20, man. I'm going to post, if you don't have like Cash App or anything like that, or you don't have, your YouTube's not connected where you can super chat, I'm dropping the GoFundMe link now in the chat. I'm going to pin it here. Go to the GoFundMe. As you make a donation, put Skull Todd in the message. You can be anonymous if you want, but then I ain't going to know who you are. You got to at least let me know. But make sure you put Skull Todd, man, because we will be doing the giveaway here soon. It's coming up, because at the moment he rings the bell, man, we celebrate. You feel me? We're celebrating. I want to thank everybody that's already donated, man, that's already supported, even if it isn't financially, the ones who have reached out to me and checked on Todd and my family. I appreciate y'all, and I love y'all, man. It means so much, I will say that, man. And again, you got to get your hands on one of these, though. I'm telling you right now, as a Vikings fan, man, these things are the work, man, the work. I know I'm a glaze it. You feel me? Shout out Norse, man. The time it took him to do these, man. And I was there for the whole process. He was keeping me updated. And I'll say, man, it's a great thing, man. So thank you, everybody. I just posted the link in there. So let me see. I don't know why it won't let me pin it, but make sure you hit that too. If you want to hit that and do the GoFundMe, here we go. Boom. All right. So I got it pinned at the top of the comments. So thank you, everybody. Because we got some new people in the building for the early morning show, man. You know what I mean? The early morning show hitting different, Coach. I ain't gonna lie, man. We got
a pretty good crowd in here.
We got a pretty good crowd in here to be the ass crack of dawn. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. But yeah. So now let's talk about. I remember I wanted to talk about like the corner, because somebody asked in the chat, and even when I had Thor on, I had Thor on. Great show, man. Shout out FJB, man. I missed you real quick, Coach, man. I got to give my guy a shout out, man. Hey, FJB, man, where you at, man? Let's go, man. I miss my guy, man. My guy said he's popping out. Let's go, man. Hey, thank you, FJB, man. Love you, man. I appreciate all your support, man. You always hit me up and check on me as well, man. I know you haven't been in the live chats lately as far as the night shows, but I'm sure you're working and doing your thing, man. I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you, man, and good to see you this morning. That's a fact, brother. Good to see you, man. Absolutely. But we were talking about the cornerback room, right? So I asked him the question. and I think me and you might have touched on it a little bit, but the question was, if there's any position group that you feel like the Vikings may need to address, just even a little bit, whether it's bringing in maybe a B-list type player, right? Which position group do you feel like that is? Because mine is the DBs, and I'm going to say DBs as a broad statement, meaning safety or corner. I think one of the two, it doesn't matter, one of the two. But how do you feel about that? Like, is there anything that kind of got you concerned about the Vikings on the defensive side of the ball that you feel like we need to, you know?
Yeah,
Oh,
I've been walking myself through each unit. A series of my shows that I had the last couple of weeks is I've been breaking down each unit of the Minnesota Vikings, and really, I can't say that they downgraded in any unit, but if there was a unit that I would be concerned about, if I had to put my finger on it, would be that secondary unit,
okay.
because we're missing some pieces off
Yeah.
a pretty decent defense from last year. Shaq Griffin is gone. The
Gilly?
big thing Gilly's gone, Bynum's gone. So these guys weren't scrubs. You can say, well, maybe they weren't first team all NFL type guys, but these were guys that were great rotational players in terms of Griffin. Gilly, he wasn't his old self like he was when he was defensive player of the year with the New England Patriots, but he gave us some good moments last year. And then you take Cam Bynum, which you could argue was the heart and soul of that defense last year, is gone. So I think right now, when you look at the Minnesota Vikings secondary, the verdict is still out, man. There's really no way. I like the moves that they've made, but there's really no way you can evaluate the secondary right now. So I think it's going to be a wait and see type deal. There's a little concern there just because you just don't know who's going to develop into what. I do like the Isaiah Rodgers pickup.
Okay.
I think because, this says a lot, Rap. When B-Flow comes at you early in the free agency period, keep in mind, he could have went a lot of different directions with that spot. He chose Isaiah Rodgers. And I went back and watched film of this young man. This guy is gritty. He's nasty. He can play the run. He can tackle. He's speedy. And he's someone that is a legit man-to-man cover corner.
Okay.
So I think when he steps in this year, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, because the role that he had with his last team is not going to be the role that he has with the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's going to jump off the page at you. I've heard nothing but good things about Byron Murphy Jr. in OTAs. He's picked off J.J. McCarthy twice in practice. And the word that's being used by a lot of the guys that cover the Vikings, especially Judd Zolgad, is that he's a ball hawk. And my worry was not that the Minnesota Vikings paid him the money that they paid him, but they paid him the money that they paid him off of a one-year resume type deal.
Right.
Could he replicate what he did last year, this year? And from all intents and purposes, man, right now, he's in form right now in OTAs and training camp. So if Byron Murphy can come back and play like he did last year, it's going to be huge for the Minnesota Vikings. And I'll throw another name out there. And you mentioned him the last time we were on, Jeff Okudah. I don't think, listen, I don't think Jeff Okudah is a scrub. And I think he needs to get his footwork together. He needs to get his hip work together a little bit. But he's got the right guy, Rap. He's got the right guy coaching him and mentoring him, and Brian Flores. So I see him making this team, and I see him having to roll with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, so, and Delt said, we cut Bubba Bolden, man. We cut Bubba, man. Bubba Bolden. I remember when we brought Bubba Bolden on, we were live, and I'm like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Yeah, Bubba Bolden. And, they were the fan. Oh, Bubba Bolden, he decent. I'm telling you, he gonna be out. Man, listen, knock it off. All right. Well, they got rid of him, and we wound up bringing an interior offensive lineman that we talked about last night too, touched on a little bit, which probably is another camp body. He was a UDFA, went to the Bears. The Bears released him. Now we got him. So he ain't been in the league 3 months and already getting tossed around like you know what, man. So I don't know. We'll see what happens though. I always have faith in our team getting the best out of players. That's part of being a fan, is you're always going to believe your team can do what's right. And speaking of Jeff Okudah, that's a perfect example of that, right? That's why I'm so hyped about him, because of his physical ability. And I know I beat this dead horse to death, but I'm telling you, if you watch him, man, play football, and there's no way you can watch him in college and say that this kid can't play. I mean, he has everything that you want. And, Justin Jefferson in his recent presser, go back and watch it if you haven't seen it. This was just yesterday or the day before. Justin Jefferson touched on Jeff Okudah and said, man, Jeff Okudah, hey, he's that aggressive, nasty, nasty type corner, man, and that's what I wanted to hear, man. Hearing that from Justin Jefferson made me feel good. I mean, it's something that I knew from watching him, but hearing your teammates say it, you feel me? It feels good, man, because it's one of those deals. Somebody just sent the hey, let's go, man. Shout out Bob and fade you up, man. Let's go. Shout out Bob and fade you up. He said my client gave me an extra tip, told me he's not a football fan, but gave me an extra 20 for Todd, man. Shout out. Hey, let's go, man. Let's go, man. Appreciate you, Bob, man. Appreciate your client. Tell your client we appreciate him, man. I'm sure you got him right, too. On a good old Saturday, man. You know what I'm saying? He about to hit the town, man. Yeah. Yeah. So shout out Bob and fade you up, man. Hey, look, man. That's my brother right there, man. Always supporting, So thank you for that, man. That's lit, man. Tell your client, Skull Vikings, baby. We got to get them on board. We got to make them a football fan. But yeah, man, Jeff Okudah, man. I say that to say, Coach, man, that's the player that I'm really, riding on this season, man. That I'm really looking at as far as me saying, you know what, I want to say I told you so on that guy. We always got the player that we kind of latch on to going into the offseason where it's like, oh, this is gonna be one of them I told you so moments. I hope it does. I hope he turns in. I mean, I don't have diehard evidence, obviously, that he's going to be that player. But as far as just sitting back, trusting the process and kind of thinking about the coaching that we have in Brian Flores and then thinking about the ability that he showed me in the past, it's like there's no way that can't work, man. I mean, that has to work, right? It has to.
Yeah. He's got great pedigree, man. He's got great pedigree. He's got great DNA. And when you look at a guy like Jeff Okudah, man, I think sometimes as fans and as, sports analysis and stuff like that, I think we throw away players too quickly. Sometimes it takes time. And if you've never believed that, you can just look at Sam Darnold last year. I mean, for all intents and purposes, right before he got to the Vikings and got into that scheme, he was straight up garbage, in terms of being on other teams and his production and stuff that he had. And he arguably had the best season he's ever had in his career. So the same thing can happen on the defensive side of the ball. I think this defensive scheme suits him very well. I think, again, he's got a great mentor and coach in Brian Flores. And I expect great things from Jeff Okudah, man, because he's got all the tools to be a good cornerback in this league.
Now, let me ask you this, Coach. We've seen a player, I saw, Alec Lewis came out and they were at camp, him and Matthew Collier, which I'm not a huge fan of that guy, only for other reasons. It's petty, but still, I've been tapping into him lately. He unblocked me, so I'm like, you know what? Hey, you unblocked me, man. I think maybe we can rekindle this relationship here that we never had. This relationship that we never had. You feel me? But maybe we can make it right. All right, but I heard them talking. I will say I tap into them here and there, and they were talking about Zamiah Vaughn and saying how he looked good out there. UDFA from Utah, it's a guy we picked up. Linky. I always said he reminds me of the RIP to Jackson. It just 3-1, man. Just reminding me of that type of player. Watching a little bit of his film, and they said, man, I think he got an interception. I believe they said he got an interception the other day and a couple pass breakups, man. I say that to say, is there any like under the radar, should we call them? Because I feel like Jeff Okudah and the Isaiah Rodgers, I don't really feel like they're under the radar. I feel like they have a name. It's just about seeing if they can put it together. But, we got Nudies of the world. We got the Vaughns of the world. We got like Powell. That's a safety coming out of the Miami. Is there any players that really, anybody talking about? Because I know you're close to the building, and I know you got an inside source, and people might not know this, but Coach got a real good source. So when you hear him talking and saying, hey, the chatter is this, believe him. You know what I mean? That's why I got him over here with me, man. You know what I mean? Coach, man, let's go. But have you heard anything? Have you heard anything about Vaughn and what he may look like or bring to the table for the Minnesota Vikings in 2025?
I don't know much about him, but over the last week or so, I've heard a lot about him.
Okay.
And I think the best attribute that he brings to the table is that he's one of these quarters, man, that's really versatile, where you can play him on the outside, inside. You know, I think the Minnesota Vikings are trying to figure out what's a good placement for him. You know, I think he's a UDFA that has a great opportunity to make this team, especially in that secondary unit. And I think he will make this team, whether it's, 53-man roster or practice squad. Personally, I see him practice squad first, trying to develop some things with him. But you're right. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic. One of my guys, I'm really good friends with Minnesota Vikings great John Turner. Me and John talk a lot, and he's got a really good insight into that building, man.
Okay.
And the one name that keeps popping up, I wouldn't call him under the radar guy, but I think he's a guy that's going to be heard from this season. Kobe King, man. Kobe King is impressing a lot of people in Eagan, Minnesota right now. I think he's one of those guys. I don't think you're going to see him a lot early. I think you may see him on special teams, maybe like 2 to 3 games. But I think the expectation now, since they have him in the building wrap, is that they're seeing what he brings to the table every day. And mark my words, this guy, Kobe King, is going to be in the Minnesota Vikings linebacker rotation by the end of the season. And he is going to be making some plays. That's the guy that we need to keep our eye on. He's not an under the radar guy, but he's definitely a guy that I think the expectations for him have grown over the last couple of training camps for sure.
Let's go, man. Shout out Adam in the building. I see you, man. Shout out Eric from New Mexico, Florinda, and Raquel, man. Let's go, man. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate y'all tapping in, man. I love the, Bandito, man. There's a lot of people in the building, coach, man, for an early morning, man. We might be on to something. This is like we said at the beginning, this is kind of a test run to see kind of what we want to bring to the table, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's right. For sure. So
I don't mind getting up talking Vikings rap. I don't mind getting up.
Me neither, man. Especially if the crowd going to pop out like they are, man. Early morning, sip your coffee, man. Do whatever you do, man. Do your little smoky smoke, whatever it is you may do. You know what I mean? Early in the morning, man. Let's get it. You feel me? Let's get it. Me and Coach are here to enjoy it with you and talk some Vikings football because, hey, look, I can talk Vikings football every day, every minute. It don't matter to me, man. I live and die for this, man. You know what I mean? That's why we do what we do, right? Delton said, I laughed at 2 old bloggers when I said he was going to start over Pace. You got laughed at. Oh yeah, okay. So Delton said he's going to start over Ivan Pace Jr. I mean, let's touch on that now. Me and Delton, we see different on this situation right here. We don't see different on a lot. You feel me? Me and Delton usually aligned, but at being a fan, it's one of those deals where you ain't gonna agree with everything, right? So, and this is one thing I may not agree with, only because I feel like Ivan Pace earned it, and he's proven that he can play at a high level, and I think he's only gonna get better, right? I don't see Ivan Pace taking no step back or anything like that. I think Ivan Pace is just gonna continue to do what he does, but even at a better level. And I want to say that to say, even with the way the defense is set up now, Ivan Pace just got better. When we brought in Jonathan Allen and when we brought in Hargrave, guess what? Ivan Pace got better at the same time. Not only Ivan Pace, right? Because you got your Cashman's got better because those guys are married to the linebackers. When you have, and this, coach, if your defensive tackles, when that defensive line in general, they are the ones who really open up opportunities for your linebackers to be able to run downhill and really make plays, whether it's in the backfield, even in coverage situations, man. I mean, those 2 position groups, man, they have to work together. Like the success is leaning for the linebackers. It's leaning on this defensive line. And I think Ivan Pace now will be able to get through these gaps without getting, knocked off his pivot now, because you got big guys like Jonathan Allen, Hargrave that are pushing these guards out the way now, and it's going to be game time, man. I see a lot of great things happening.
Yeah, Ivan Pace early, he doesn't have to worry about anybody threatening him for that starting spot. It's going to be Ivan.
But it could happen, though. It could happen.
It could.
Yeah.
It could. Ivan Pace is going to be there. I think the one thing about Ivan Pace right now is that he's got to get better in coverage. He's not a great coverage linebacker.
Yeah.
He's small and he's got to stay healthy. When you look at it, you start comparing him to a guy like Kobe King, and I'm just talking about straight attributes. Obviously, Pace has more experience.
Yeah.
King is a little bit more versatile. He's better. He's better in coverage. Not great, but better in coverage. He's a bigger linebacker, and he comes from a system in college in Penn State that, most people would say is linebacker U. So I think if Ivan Pace can stay on the field and be pretty decent in coverage, I don't think there's a threat for him to lose that spot. But if Ivan Pace gets hurt, and he's been dinged up the last couple years, where a guy
might
like
not get his job back.
He might not get his job back if Kobe King comes out and is the player that I think he's going to be for the Minnesota Vikings. He's got to stay on the field and get healthy, and he's got to be better in coverage. I mean, that's the Achilles heel of Ivan Pace Jr. right now.
Yeah, no, facts, man. North said, bring donuts next time. Hey, we will. We
I got you, North.
Hey, me and Coach gonna set this up, man, for the mornings. You know what I mean? We get a little creative, man. We got donuts and all that, man, for you, man. We got bagels over there, man. Everybody go grab a bagel. You know what I mean? Go grab a donut. Yeah.
Hey, how about a honey bun with some cheese on it, man? I heard that from the last.
Man, we were talking about the food, man. That was a great live show too, man. Because we kind of got off topic a little bit, even though it was Vikings players talking about it. But there was definitely some weird combinations, man. Well, we got a little weird team going on here when it comes to the food they eat, man. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I don't know if that's a Minnesota thing, but then again, it can't be because all these players are all from all over the country. They just happen to be in Minnesota right now. But yeah, I don't know. That was weird. That was weird. Northfield said Kobe is a thumper. I like Kobe Bryant, right? I mean, I'm Kobe King. I think I like Kobe Bryant too. Everybody know that. But the Kobe King, man, I think, I like what you said, and I can agree with it if maybe Ivan Pace tends to maybe get dinged up and Kobe comes in, there's an opportunity. And that's kind of how the NFL works for the most part when you got players that aren't really solidified. Like they're the starter, but they're only the starter because somebody else hasn't stepped in yet and showed that they can be a little bit better. And then you have players that they're the starter, they're locked in. Like, for example, the star player, Justin Jefferson. Like if he was to miss a game or two, Ty Felton can't come in and take it. It's just not going to happen. But a player like Ivan Pace, I think he's still in that category to where, okay, yeah, you go down. If Kobe King comes in and like is balling out there, there's going to be conversations, right? There's going to be conversations had about, where do we go from here? Who really puts us in a better situation. Kobe King was one of my favorite pickups in the draft all around him. And then I'm really, really, Coach, man, fell in love with Tyron Ingram Dawkins.
Oh, yeah.
I think, like, as I'm looking at the draft, the more and more we get further away from it, and I'm really digging into the players and looking at what they can bring to this table. I'm telling you right now, I think that guy right there is a guy that's, first of all, not getting talked about enough. And he's going to be the guy that's going to pop out of the scene. I mean, this dude is a monster, man. A monster. And I trust the school he played for, everything about it. Just like Georgia defense, they raise him. They raise those guys come in, man. And I feel like if he was to stayed in college this year right here, I think I mentioned this, he could have easily been a Jalen Carter coming out of in the draft for 2026 easily. So I look forward, man. How you feel about him, man? How you feel
man, I think he's solid. And again, Coach Smart down in Georgia, and then that whole Georgia reputation and tradition on defense. See, right, what we're talking about right now, this is why the Minnesota Vikings are in such a good position, because we're talking about really, really good depth guys right now from traditional programs that can get after it. Like I like him because he's nasty. He comes from that program where, they get after you in Georgia. And he's getting great coaching by NFL caliber coaches that have a tradition of sending players to the NFL. I like everything about him. I think he's a player that's definitely going to be heard from in the purple. And again, man, just building that defense with guys that we already have, and then adding players like him and Kobe King and stuff like that to create that depth. Man, I think it's just going to be box office for the Minnesota Vikings. I like him a lot. I love it.
Yeah. Couple other players I want to touch on. We're going on an hour. We appreciate everybody, man. This has been a great turnout this morning, man. And thank you. Make sure y'all hit the like button, wipe your feet at the dinner. Two more players I want to touch on, Coach. One is Eric Wilson, man. Yep. I'm a huge fan of Eric Wilson. Bro, listen, when he was a Minnesota Viking for the time he was a Minnesota Viking, I was upset we let him walk out the door.
I was too.
The first time. I felt like, why? I mean, he wasn't straining you financially. Such a great locker room guy. Can play the position at a high level. He's a thumper, but he also is decent in coverage. I just didn't get why we let him walk out the door, because I felt like he was hitting his stride in purple and gold. He was. And yes, we let him walk out. Didn't really, turn out to be the same on another team. And that tends to happen when you let a guy walk out the door. It's just not the same setup. I'm glad he's back with us. I think that was a super intentional. That when you look at a move like that, that has to be intentional. Yep. Like, because you could say there's a million Eric Wilsons that you could have just brought on to this team, but yet you went and got him, somebody who actually already played for this organization. Listen, man, I'm gonna tell you right now, I know we're talking about Kobe, we're talking about Ivan Pace, but look here, would I be surprised if Eric Wilson works his way into a heavy role for the Minnesota Vikings in 2025? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, man. I think that guy's an all-around baller, man. How you feel about Eric Wilson, Coach?
I agree with you about Eric Wilson. I think he's one of the names, it's funny that you bring him up, that gets kind of lost in the shuffle. When you talk about all the new additions, you rarely ever hear Eric Wilson. Let me tell you this. He is hell over a defensive tackle that's playing that 3 technique, man. When you talk about being able to stunt on the inside and him being able to drop or blitz, I think that's where he is really, really good in terms of being a linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings. In terms of the Minnesota Vikings letting him go, I don't know how the Green Bay Packers let him walk out the door when they need help in their linebacker room as well. I think it's a benefit. It's a benefit for the Minnesota Vikings, man. I wouldn't be surprised either, Rap, if he works himself into playing heavy rotational situations every game. Yeah. And again, when you can line him up over a 3 technique defensive tackle and allow him to blitz and read things and maybe drop back into coverages at times, I think that's where he's at his best. And I think that's where B-Flow is going to use it.
Yeah, no, that's a fact, man. I almost keep forgetting about him. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, even though I'm excited, I'm guilty of kind of just him getting lost in the sauce, like you said. But when if you really sit back as a Vikings fan and think about what this guy's potential is to bring to the table this year, man, he's just one of those players who he shows up, man. There's going to be a game where he's going to be the hero. He just has that about him where whether it's an interception late in the game to seal the deal or, a forced fumble or something like that, he's that type of guy. Like, he's just all over the place, man. And, he plays 110% every snap. I appreciate that guy, man. Eric, I'm a huge fan of him, man. Huge fan of him, man.
Playmaker. He's a playmaker.
Playmaker, man. Shout out Amani. Good morning. My brother's just sitting back having some coffee and drinking up this Vikings news. Thank you, man. We appreciate you, man. That's what the whole vibe was supposed to be about. And it looked like, if you ask me, it's been a success. It's been a success.
Oh, man, it's great.
It's been great. It's been great. Coach, I want to leave us with one more topic here real quick because my wife got to go do some stuff. So I told her I'll be an hour, man. But we don't go over just a little.
Life, Rap. Happy wife, happy life.
Hey, you know it. Let's go, man. Let's get a round of applause to Coach for that. You know what I mean? That's the best news we got. But I want to touch on. We'll incorporate 2 players, and it's the offensive line. I'm talking about Christian Darrisaw and Will Fries. We know that both of them technically are on the injury list. Right? They're on the injured list. Now, I'm asking you this because we're going into the season talking about, and I touched on this last night with Really Flawed. As Vikings fans, we're going into the season with this vision of, hey, the Vikings are going to have a top 5, 6, whatever offensive line, but we're incorporating those 2 said players to be part of that. Now, I question, I know we hyped up Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, things like that, But I question, and the Darisaw thing has nothing to do with this, but the Will Fries, and then there's a couple players on the defense that we brought in that are technically injured still or coming off a bad injury. How comfortable are you with the offensive line as far as being fully intact when the season kicks off, when you're talking about Darisaw? And if Darisaw isn't healthy, who do you see stepping into that role that we have right now? I know Thor was talking on Logan Brown. He's a KU fan, rock chalk, man. So he was really big on Logan Brown, which is the UDFA we brought in. And then Will Fries being that right guard. What do we see there, man? Like, if let's just say those two players aren't 100% ready, what does this offensive line look like, man? How you feeling about that?
I think Will Fries is going to be ready to go by the time of by the time the season starts. I think the person that I'm concerned about is Christian Darisaw. He was out there this past week in camp looking pretty good, but that's not going up against any defensive lineman or really anything like that. I think when you lose your base like that as an offensive tackle, I think you got to be really hesitant in terms of that timeline and bringing him back too quickly. So I think they're going to take their time with Christian Darisaw. I think the cool last name is cool that they got from the San Francisco 49ers. They picked him up late as a offensive tackle. I can't remember his first name. Please forgive me. But I think he's going to – he's a journeyman. He's got a lot of games under his belt. I think they're going to look to him first in terms of that offensive tackle spot if Christian Darisaw can't go. But I think Will Fries is going to be ready to go day one. He's going to be ready for training camp. That's my expectation. I think the biggest obstacle for the Minnesota Vikings offensive line is building that chemistry. I think on paper, we look absolutely fantastic. Did they improve in the trenches? Absolutely not. But there's a lot more to playing that offensive line than just lining up talent. Like, they got to have the blitz pickups. They got to be on the same page as that. They've got to be seeing things together. And I think the one adversity that the Minnesota Vikings will hit is that they won't have those guys all together early enough in training camp to build that chemistry. I think that's something that's going to happen over the first couple of games with the Minnesota Vikings. So I think that offensive line wrap is not going to be as good as it can be maybe in the first 2 to 3 games of the season. But as they start to get pieces back on that offensive line, I think they're going to get better and better and better throughout the season, and they will be that top 3 offensive line in the league. But I think it's going to take some time, like any other position, to be able to work as a unit together, and they've got to be on the field together, and I think that's going to hurt them the most early on in their season.
Man, great take, man. Great take leaving out with that. Hey, we appreciate everybody, man, in the building. Happy Father's Day, early Father's Day to all the fathers in the building. Enjoy it. It's our time to shine tomorrow. Enjoy it. You know what I mean? Enjoy it tomorrow. Hey, we love y'all. Today has been a great show this morning, man. Hey, look, man, I think we got to do this again. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We got to do this again, man. Time flew by this morning, man. It went by too fast. Like, I seen Delt say, man, damn, an hour went by too damn quick. You know, I feel like we just getting started, man. We can go another hour if we wanted to, man. But this was a great show, Coach. Me and you obviously be in contact throughout this process, and we got big things.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Vice versa. I will say this, if you want me to jump on your channel next week or the week after, whatever, to get some talking going on over on your side with your community, man, let me know. I'm always here, man. I'm always here to join you. But, man, with that being said, man, Skol Vikings, everybody, man, make sure you hit the like button on the way out. And also make sure you go subscribe to Coach, man. Unconventional Playbook on YouTube. I will say his name is in the title. Made it super easy for you. Just go click it, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification, man. Noti gang, man. Y'all got to make sure y'all got the notifications on. That's super important. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you next time.